Ihr hört einen Podcast vom Future of Festivals, das Branchentreffen für alle VeranstalterInnen, Dienstleistende, EntscheiderInnen und Auszubildenden aus dem Festivalbereich. Die nächste Ausgabe findet von Donnerstag, den 27. bis Freitag, den 28. November 2025 in der Station Berlin statt. Die folgende Aufzeichnung ist aus dem Jahre 2024 von dem Diskussionspanel mit dem Namen
Flooring von Böden und Bühnen.
Viel Spaß beim Zuhören. Mehr Informationen und Tickets findest du unter www.futureoffestivals.com.
Thank you very much, guys. So, I don't know if my two panelists want to come and join me on the stage. Guys, you want to come and join us? So, we're going to be talking about festival flooring for the next hour. It's one of the real fundamental elements of a festival that can either make the festival run really smoothly, or it can cause us a lot of challenges, as I think we're going to discuss. So hopefully in the next hour we're going to chat about some of the challenges that can be presented by the festival flooring and some of the solutions that we can use to try and keep our event operations running smoothly and keep our punters dry. So I'm going to let our panelists introduce themselves. If you want to just tell us your name and a little bit about your background.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Louis Steffen from EPS Germany. I'm head of operations. I think I've stickered my first chair when I was 6 years old, something like that. So I've been with EPS in various functions for 20 years roughly. I'm older than that, but doesn't matter. So, I'll be curious to share some insights with you.
Yeah, hello, my name is Oliver Vordempfenne from iMotion. We are promoting the Nature One Festival next year for 30 years. And so we have some experience with mud and rain and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's part of the experience when you've been organising a festival for that long. Before we get into the mud, let's start on a positive note. Is there such a thing as the perfect sort of festival grounds? Are there any characteristics that festival organisers should be looking for if they're looking for a new site for their festival?
Yeah, well, of course, it's always helpful if you have, especially in places where you want to build a stage, that you have solid ground and not an acre or whatever. So looking for a festival site, as I said, it's helpful to have at least parts with solid ground. On the other side, on the campsite, it's better for the experience of the people if it's grass or field, because it's more comfortable. So you have to have a good mixture, and still you can cover weak areas with stuff that EPS is renting. But basically doing a festival only on a pure green site is very risky.
Yeah, I think the perfect ground would always be a major field of concrete, and we wouldn't be necessary to come in. But, that doesn't really make a festival in the end.
No, I think grass and farm fields and that are part of the aesthetic, part of the atmosphere that people want to come and see. So I guess finding the compromise between the solid ground and the more aesthetically pleasing but less robust green fields of grass is the key, right? And what sort of challenges do we come across with these ground conditions, especially when we've had a lot of rain, I suppose, is the obvious one, and we start to get muddy? Do you want to maybe speak a little bit about some of the challenges that we can face?
Well, the first challenge right now is really that we can see and feel the climate change. Yeah, when it comes to Nature One, which we do for 30 years now. In the past, 27 years, we've had one extreme weather situation with heavy rain and a flooded campsite. This was in the year 2000. Now we had extreme weather last year and extreme weather this year with 90 to 150 liters of rain per square meter. And the bad news for everyone who is here and is hoping to get a good trick how to make your festival safe for extreme weather conditions or heavy rain. The bad news is there is no solution, yeah? Because when you have 150 hectares of camping fields, you cannot cover them all with metal plates or whatever. It's just impossible. So we have to face the situation. What we can do is to try to do the best out of the situation and to be prepared as good as you can be prepared to do things like building streets in the fields and try to dry some areas, or kinds like that. But in the end of the day, if you have extreme weather situations, you have to face it, and that you have, not the best experience for the people.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time flooring is put down to give access to certain areas, you know, like the stage for cranes and all that. But what's Rettungsdienst?
The rescue.
The authorities. To give access to the authorities for crucial parts on the field and all that. So rain more than heat is a huge challenge for us, because when it's very hot, you know, you get dusty grounds and it's a pain for everyone there, but it doesn't really obstruct people from going somewhere, while the rain can just make it all go away.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess heavy rainfall and then heavy footfall or vehicle movement across the site results in mud, and it can make maintaining the event operations really, really challenging. So a couple of the two festivals that I've been involved with having to abandon partway through as a result of heavy rains, it was absolutely an access issue. Our emergency exit capabilities were significantly reduced, so we wouldn't be able to exit the audience in the event of a fire or something like that. And the other challenge that we had were the event operations, like the medical resource and the fire resource, were no longer able to move around the site. So we lost the ability to keep people safe, and that was the reason that we ended up abandoning the event. And I guess you, with your panels and your trackway, you're one of the more obvious solutions, I guess. But that also comes with a cost, right? So if we've not already booked the trackway and that kind of thing, or if we don't have the funds for it, are there some things that we can do with good site design to try to avoid these issues becoming challenging?
Yeah, you definitely can. I mean, the more experience you gain on a site, like you did in Pitna, for example, the more things you figure out you can do before you actually put down aluminium roads to give access. I mean, there's wood chips you can put on the ground. There's major structural changes you can put in. You can put concrete roads in places. And you can prevent water from actually reaching the field, you know, just by changing the landscape around it. And I think if you're on a field, on a venue that long, you do a lot of these structural changes to actually avoid the situation to need EPS, right?
Yeah, right. It's absolutely right what you said. You have to, when you plan the site or the structure of the festival, where is stage, where is the firefighters, where's this, where's that, emergency exits, stuff like that. you of course have to focus on that these essential things work in any case, in any weather situation, yeah. And you can of course prepare for that with building streets with metal plates or whatever, so that the medical aid can drive anywhere every time. But that is, of course, the main focus. And then you look, okay, how do we make it as comfortable for the people as possible? But there also you have some, let's say, natural limits, yeah, because for Nature One, there are two small roads that are heading to the campsite, and when 50,000 people come within a short period of time, and you have bad weather, it's just limited capacity you can bring over the roads. You cannot build a highway in the land. So yeah, as I said, focus on the really important and safety things. That is important, that this is secure, and the rest make it as good as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no fix-all situation, like you said in the start, where we did have to look for roadways, you know, after festivals, where we come to pick it all up. We've had areas where we couldn't find our material because it was just sunk a meter under the dirt, and we couldn't get it out, which obviously then is an issue as well. So, and that road doesn't have any function anymore if it's 1 meter under the dirt.
So you've been in situations where your trackway has been completely buried underneath the mud?
Many times, yeah, it happens. It happens a lot.
I've certainly seen roads of your trackway floating through a lot of waterway with big lorries going over it. It must have been quite a extreme situation, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, floating is really one of the worst things, I suppose. Would happen more with plastic flooring than with aluminium flooring. But yeah, of course, I mean, you'll have to then think about how to mend it. And in that case, you probably have to get rid of it because it gives people a false sense of security. You know, if you have plastic flooring floating around, you need to get it out, definitely.
And are there any things that the landowner can do to support you with your event? Are there any things that the landowner can help with?
Yeah, well, of course, it's always helpful to have good relationships with the landowners. The campsite are usually the campsites from festivals are owned by farmers who do farming over the rest of the year. What we do at Nature One is that we rent all the fields the whole year, so that the farmers don't break up the ground and do farming there, because then the ground is not solid enough when we want to go there and it's raining. So there's grass over the whole year. And that is way better than other fruits you can do on the grounds, and that helps when you have normal rain, yeah. But yeah, when you have 90, 100 liter, then it's also muddy and you do nothing. But still, if you have, it's of course important to also look what do the farmers with the land over the rest of the year, so that you have the best possible ground when you are coming with your campers.
Are there any sort of preparations that you do together with the landowner before the festival starts, as in preparing the ground or?
Well, it depends, of course, on the weather. If it's wet, we keep the grass high, because then when the cars go over it, it helps to get it dry. When it is very dry, we cut the grass very short because of the fire problem. So yeah, we try to do it as we need it concerning to the weather. But in the end of the day, it's also very limited because when it comes to farming, there are, I think, more EU regulations than when it comes to taxes. So if you want to do something, you first have to check the EU regulations on farming, if it is allowed, how it is allowed. You have to ask the governments and stuff like that. So it's really, really complicated. Yeah.
How do you farm on an area where people camped on a festival before? How does the farming work after a whole festival crowd was camping on that area for a week?
Well, key is after the festival the cleaning, because usually the farmers have their cows there. And if a cow eats a cigarette or a cup from a glass, then they really can get very sick. So it's really key to leave the fields absolutely clean, and that means going over the fields with 400-500 people for 1 week. And picking up every little cigarette, glass, whatever.
It's a big responsibility, I guess, being able to leave that festival site in a good enough condition for the farmer to be able to raise livestock on it and not need to farm it.
Yeah, and it's also essential for us, because when we would leave it not in a like we do, the farmers wouldn't give us the fields the next year. So that's very important to clean it up as 100%.
I guess the relationship with the landowner for you is really, really important, and you need to put the time and effort in to keep that relationship good. Yeah.
Definitely, and you have to drink a lot of beer with them.
And I understand that at Nature One Festival you invest into infrastructure on the land each year. If you could maybe tell us a little bit about what you invest in year by year.
Yeah, what we did over the last years is, for example, digging water pipes in the ground so that we have fresh water everywhere on the campsite. And what we did is building roads between the fields, so when people come with their cars on the campsite, so that at least the road streets are okay. Yeah. But yeah, at some point they have to leave the road on the grass. Yeah. And this was the problem this year. But yeah, in normal years, when you have the streets, the roads on the campsite, then people can go with a car and also leave after the festival. And yeah, I think in the meantime we built 20-25 kilometers of roads to be more independent from extreme weather situation.
Yeah, but I mean, that of course is more applicable for major festivals that have been around for such a long time. And I think for new festivals, starting up festivals, it's very crucial to start the planning process early and get people involved that have the experience with these fields and how the ground reacts to water, heat, all the different conditions. And what areas need to be covered specifically, if you need access to the stage, if you need access to water, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an area where the landowner's knowledge about the site, the local weather conditions, and the environment around can be really, really useful input. I've certainly been in situations last summer where we were able to work with the landowner, and they gave us some really useful advice about areas of the campsite that we could expect to flood, and which gates were likely to get really muddy, and we were able to then use the resource that we had in the most efficient way. So we've talked a lot about planning the event to avoid problems cropping up with the ground. What about when we've got these issues and we've got some really waterlogged, muddy grounds? What sort of options do we have to sort of help us keep the show open and keep it safe?
Well, in the simplest answer would always be we send more material and we just throw flooring onto it and try to, maintain the functionality of the festival, which obviously is not always the answer. Like we said before, there's not one simple solution to these kinds of issues. But, doing structural changes to the situation, wood chips and actual ground fills, I think would be, especially with rain, a good solution. And then, you try to cover the most crucial parts, and maybe you need to rethink some of the movements on site and who goes where and why. The driveways, and change the directions of where traffic has to go.
Yeah, so it's not just putting materials down, but thinking about how the site's working, see if we can open up some new emergency exits maybe, or some new walking routes and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it has to be a very dynamic process of, different departments talking to each other as to, how we can now keep the site running. So, the authorities need to be involved, the health and safety officers need to be involved, the promoter needs to be involved, and then the servicing companies need to be involved as well, because just saying put down more floor is not going to really help anyone.
Yeah, and there's only a limited amount as well, especially in terms of balancing health and safety requirements and the cost of bringing these last minute deployments in. I don't know if you've got any advice for young festival owners trying to balance those two really important requirements.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're a business. We need to earn money, but still, we try to find the best way for everyone to work with the situation we have at hand. And I think we've established some successful relationships in that, as in, we consult on what's actually necessary and not only what we want to sell. We try.
Yes, just can underline what you said. It's not the solution is not much helps much. So you really have to think smart, plan smart. Okay, what solution, what kind of flooring makes sense, or in what special situation. Yeah, so it's yeah. As I said in the beginning, you just cannot put metal plates on the whole festival ground. Yeah.
Did you have situations before where you had to close off areas of your festival temporarily?
No, fortunately not, because the festival site itself we have has very much solid ground. It's a former rocket base, cruise missile space, so there's a lot of solid floors. Problem is the campsite, and this year we had to stop the arrival of the people on Friday because 40% of the campsite wasn't possible to use. It wasn't possible because the water was 30-40 centimeter on the grass, so it was a big lake, and we lost 40% of our campsite, and we had to close it or we couldn't use it.
I think there's a piece about the expected weather conditions as well. I find that if you've got heavy rain in a really wet site, but the forecast is for the next few days to be dry with a little bit of wind, putting aggregate material down or tracking can make the condition worse for longer, in the sense that if you're able to leave some of these walkways exposed to the wind, you've got a much better chance of those areas drying up. Whereas if you start putting wood chip or straw down, it's going to hold that water there and it's not going to get that chance to improve as well.
No, definitely. I mean, some decisions have to be made very carefully. It's not always the solution to just cover it with something. That's definitely true. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's also a problem that came up within the last couple of years, that the weather forecasts are less and less precise. You know, okay, when you have rain all week, and the forecast is okay, you have rain all week, then it's easy. But this year, for Nature One example, we had a very good forecast for the festival week. Dry weather, sunny, 24 degrees, almost perfect. And then within 12 hours, the forecast changed. In 12 hours, you get a heavy rain with 25 liters. And within 12 hours, it's almost impossible to do anything.
Yeah, so in regards to measures that we take is, so if we hear about heavy rainfall in an area where we know one of these festivals is happening, we proactively contact these people and, you know, start the conversation about it. So we heard it's going to be heavy downfall. We should maybe prepare something.
So you're not just supplying trackway there, you're helping festival organisers make sensible decisions and be warned about situations that may arise.
Yes, we definitely try to, and that's why I said before, you know, the planning has to happen in advance so that contingencies can be kept as well. So, you know, if we don't keep things to the side, there might not be enough material actually available on the market.
Yeah, it's a limited resource, isn't it? I've certainly worked with festival organisers that have had unexpected rain. They haven't had the contingency plans in place, but they've been able to work with their insurance companies who've been able to provide some funding to bring in resource like extra tracking, because it's cheaper than dealing with the aftermath of cancelling a festival.
Yeah, I mean, the large festivals are now budgeted like a corporation, pretty much, you know, and they usually have contingencies in place for that kind of situation. But if you're a new festival and you don't have the revenue and the money on your side, then you might not be able to actually plan for that, and you might get into the situation where you're completely sinking, and there's nothing you can do to change it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked quite a lot about climate change and the impact that it's having on events and weather. Are there any sustainability considerations with the solutions that we've got to deteriorating ground conditions?
Yeah, well, I think one festival cannot stop the climate change, but if we all do little steps, in total it will help, hopefully. Yeah. For example, we invested this year the Green Festival tickets. So if you buy this festival ticket for Nature One, we compensate your footprint 100%. We will invest in a wind turbine. What is the word?
Wind turbines.
Wind turbine. Yeah, because there will be built 2 wind turbines on the Nature One campsite. So we will invest in it, so that we can produce our own electricity. Yeah, and different little steps we can do so that we can make it more comfortable for the people not to come with their own car, but use the official or public transportation systems. But in the end of the day, we must be clear that are really very, very little things with a very, very little impact. But it's more to have a change in mind and to have the thing in the mind. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you said not one festival can change, work against climate change by itself, and not one company can work against climate change in the event industry. But every company that does little bits and pieces, can contribute to that change. So in regards to flooring, the consideration for us is always, it used to be all wood. Back when I was growing up, it was plywood that was put down to the ground, and that was one-time use. You'd use it once, and then it'll be chucked away. And then plastic flooring was developed and changed that dynamic and was a little more sustainable. Even though it is plastic, you can still, use it multiple times or use it over years. And we're working with aluminium a lot, not only because it's a very practical solution, but it is the most sustainable solution as well, because it lives for such a long time. You don't have to, keep production up for every season. You can actually reuse these aluminium panels for, I think we have stocks that run for 10, 15 years.
Yeah, so once it's manufactured, it's there for a long time, it's part of your infrastructure for a long time. It can be reused time and again.
And we are EMAS certified, which I can only recommend to every company that's sitting here to start that process.
Brilliant. One of the other issues, one of the user groups that's often most affected by festival flooring is customers with mobility issues or disabled customers. Are there many solutions that we can put in place to make sure that they can still come to events and that they're able to move around as they need to?
Yeah, of course, you have to take into account that you have disabled people coming to your festival, and you have to have special parking places, special camping places where they can go anywhere with a wheelchair, also on the festival side. But I think that's basic when you do a festival, that you keep in mind that you have disabled people, and you cannot just say don't know, but you have to make it as comfortable as it's possible for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the amount of people that go to festivals grow every year. So the different needs you need to meet change and grow every year as well. And accessibility is definitely a major target point for us as well when we build infrastructure together with the promoters. Where do people crucially need access to that might not be able to walk? It starts with the entrance situation, and how do people get from the public sector to the entrance situation, and from there to the sanitary facilities and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's definitely a big consideration nowadays in the planning of a festival.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of those things that needs to be factored into the design, I think, doesn't it? Did you have any comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to add as example, you have to give the people the chance with an electric wheelchair that they can charge the wheelchair and stuff like that. But from my point of view, for a big festival, that's standard already, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a range of levels of care given to customers with mobility issues in the UK. Some festivals don't put very much infrastructure in. Other festivals do a great job, and they bring in welfare facilities, tracking to make sure that they've got the right camping facilities and stuff. And I think it's something that's really important that people do plan on and accommodate.
At least in the limits of what you can do, because we're still in the open field, and there's bumps and edges and water ponds and everything. So it's never going to be 100% accessible as it is, in a closed area like this with a level floor. but yeah, you do what you can.
Yeah, 100%. It's important to make the effort and try and improve on that resource every year, I think, isn't it? And I think we've spoken a lot about the design of festivals and the live event. And one of the things that I find is often overlooked is the loadout, so the packing down phase of the event. We often find a lot of times that the resource, the tracking and that sort of thing is taken away quite early on, leaving crews taking down structures and packing down the rest of the festival to struggle in poor ground conditions. I don't know if that's something that you've had much involvement with, or you've got any recommendations for that?
Abbau meetings. You need Abbau meetings, a lot of them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's bottom line. It's also a question of the right planning, you know, and also make clear to the suppliers and everyone to take care, to be smart. So not just go anywhere you want and with the big trucks and then you destroy the floor or whatever. Yeah. So good planning, lots of talking.
Yeah, I mean the planning process ends with when the last truck leaves from our end. You know, we never plan for the show is over and then we see what happens.
Yeah, 100%.
And with the amount of logistics now that happens on a festival site like that, I don't know. Do you have a number for how many trucks you have leaving site when you finish the festival, roughly?
I must look, Yannick. 20? Only from EPS.
Yeah, but there's way more.
He meant
in total,
altogether,
right?
200?
Yeah, so that obviously needs to be planned out carefully and with weather conditions as well. You know, you need to consider where you can actually drive your trucks in and out, and where do you block yourself if you get stuck?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And is there anywhere that people can go to find out any more information or get any more advice or guidance about planning and resourcing the festival properly?
Well, I mean, we are always open, to work with anyone on at least defining an area and saying, this is something that actually works as a ground or not, or it works under that condition. But luckily nowadays there's more and more organizations that actually work with that. For example, there's a German company called EBIT. That works a lot with health and safety and crowd management solutions. So there's a multitude of organizations and companies that can now consult, new festival founders in how to take the proper measures to make that work.
Yeah, 100%. So I think bringing in expertise early on and asking questions and working with your suppliers to understand their needs and how they pose, you put solutions in place for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to really never be scared to talk to people. Try to find out as many contacts as you can, and maybe even contact a fellow promoter on how they have dealt with situations in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say to my clients, from my health and safety perspective, the earlier they can bring me in, the more useful I can be to them. I think it's really important to get that knowledge. And speaking to the landowner, getting some local knowledge as well, I think is really, really useful, yeah. Okay, well, we've got about 15 minutes left. I don't know if anybody out here has got any questions that they want to ask the panelists. No question.
Awestruck. Everyone's awestruck.
I guess we've covered everything then, haven't we? I don't know if you wanted to make any closing remarks.
Yeah, well, when it comes to festivals and bad weather and muddy, in the end of the day, to a certain degree, it's part of the entertainment, part of the experience. Yeah. So if you wanna go home with clean white shoes after a festival, maybe the festival isn't the right place for you. Yeah. So I think it has to be safe. It has to be comfortable to a certain degree. But in the end of the day, if it's raining the whole weekend, take it as it is. Take it as it is. Make the best out of it. Have fun, and usually, if you have these a bit more extreme situations that bound the group together, the experience gets better. Like, okay, now we stick together and party even harder. So yeah, in the end of the day, it's a festival. And when you look on to pictures from Woodstock or other big legendary festivals, there is also a part of mud with it. So that's part of a festival.
Absolutely. I think it's all part of the experience, isn't it? I find that no matter how challenging the conditions are and how poor the ground conditions are, as long as the audience sees that you're doing something to work with it and to improve it, they tend to be fully invested and they just get on with it and make the best of a damp situation, don't they? Great. Well, thank you very much, guys. I hope there's been some useful information shared. Yeah, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your panel. Thanks also to you for being a great audience. We'll continue here at 3:15 auf Deutsch dann. Und dann geht es um Sicherheitskonzepte, Zusammenarbeit von Kommunen und innerstädtischen Festivals. Also es geht nicht nur um Sicherheitsaspekte, aber wie kann man eigentlich mit Städten, Ordnungsämtern und öffentlicher Sicherheit zusammenarbeiten. Damit geht es hier weiter um 2:45. Noch so ganz nebenbei beim Rausgehen, wenn ihr Kopfhörer wollt, um die Sachen noch besser zu hören, die ihr gesagt werden, oder ihr wollt zuhören, während ihr rumläuft, nehmt euch solche Kopfhörer, da stehen auch die Instructions, die könnt ihr euch dann angucken. Und nicht vergessen, die App runterzuladen, da seht ihr, wenn sich irgendwas ändert, ihr könnt Favoriten einfügen, ihr könnt gucken, die Person fand ich super spannend, der sage ich jetzt noch was, der schreibe ich irgendwas, oder ihr könnt der tollen Moderation hier vorne schreiben, wie schlecht sie ist, oder einfach mal für ein Festival buchen, ich hätte richtig Bock auf ein Festival zu moderieren, wie auch immer. Und dann guckt euch ein bisschen um, netzwerkt, redet mit Leuten, alle sind hier, um sich auszutauschen, das ist ein Branchenevent. Und dann viel Spaß und bis gleich.
Das war das Panel mit dem Namen
Flooring von Böden und Bühnen.
Wenn ihr Kritik oder Fragen habt, dann schreibt uns gerne unter www.futureoffestivals.com. Wir sehen uns spätestens am Donnerstag, den 27. und Freitag, den 28. November 2025 in der Station Berlin. Bis dahin.